Welcome back to the Breakfast Brief, the show where I make food and talk about the news. Today, MAGA podcaster Dave Rubin went on the Cuomo podcast, and it did not go well for Dave Rubin. With that being said, let's get cracking. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing absolutely fantastic. We are back from our adventure. We are going through the wild footage of my conversations with Trump supporters, and it should have something fascinating for you very soon from that Trump rally in Milwaukee. But speaking of Trump supporters, you have a guy by the name of Dave Rubin that we recently talked about, who does this sort of, no, I'm in the middle, I used to be on the left, I just happen to only push MAGA nonsense type grift that we see. But he is, again, supportive of Trump, so I put him in that category. But he went on Cuomo's podcast. And Cuomo's someone who also sometimes does this both sidesy thing too much and doesn't, in my mind, lay down the stakes of this election clearly enough, and different criticisms I've had for him in the past. But in this episode, he does a really good job of pushing back against Dave Rubin's dangerous lies, especially on COVID-related matters. So we'll go through some of these clips, and I'll respond starting with this.
Because he didn't have the vaccine. He made it. I'm not taking away his credit, but I'm saying...
Well, I don't think he deserves credit for it. I think the vaccine was not a vaccine. And, well, the vaccine was not a vaccine.
Well,
the vaccine did not work. Fauci is on... Well, right now...
It works. It worked. It worked. It's why the hospitalizations came down. It's why the healthcare system...
I know everyone says that, but I don't think there's really any evidence of that.
Yeah, of course
I'm not vaxxed. They're not vaxxed. None of my crew is vaxxed.
You are not the people who should have been made to be vaxxed.
Well, first off, but they were forcing everybody to be vaxxed. That is
going to be something that needs to be reviewed and scrutinized, and I believe ultimately found to have been wrong.
Yeah, so sort of a little something at the end there, but the core of what Cuomo is saying to Dave Rubin's just ridiculousness. And the laziest argument, I don't think there's any evidence that the vaccines worked. Yeah, except for the studies that have shown millions of lives were saved by the COVID-19 pandemic. And what's annoying is we have a lot of dishonesty in politics. Obviously, that's a daily occurrence, things we have to address. But it really bothers me when people are so brazenly dishonest about a subject that is so consequential, and it's offensive to me that people would push carelessly lies about this type of topic, the vaccines, COVID-19, and public health matters. It seems like Dave Rubin, for him to say what he said, hasn't actually taken the time to even look into what the dishonest talking points are that he's espousing, because he just sort of goes, I don't think there's evidence. And so quickly Cuomo can slap that down because it's such a weak argument. But how dare you not even take the time to really inform yourself if you're going to be talking about something that is a matter of life and death, literally. But it's because for some reason right now in the MAGA echo chamber, it gets clicks, it makes profit for you to be against the science on this. But yes, we reviewed a hearing where a medical professional testified to the fact that millions of lives have been saved because of the vaccine. And as horrific as this is, if you do break it down by political ideology identification, after the vaccine was available, so it became a really politicized decision, right, to get the vaccine, you saw this spike in Republican death rates compared to Democratic death rates. That gap became way bigger. And ultimately, Republicans died at twice the rate as Democrats because of the politicization of science by people like Dave Rubin. So people are being hurt and dying because of the lies being pushed, because people don't take the time, or they're willing to look past the data because it serves their political interests. Sick stuff. Next clip.
Yeah, but Fauci should be in jail. Do you
for what?
For
what's the crime?
Well, we can do a whole bunch of things.
Just one.
We'd have to decide what the crime is at the end. Let me just go through a few of the things that he did, and then we can figure out what the technical term for the crime is. So just in the last few days, he's admitted that 6 feet social distancing was largely made up. He completely admitted it.
No, he didn't.
Now. Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
What did he say?
We'll do it point by point.
Yeah.
What he said was, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why they said
he's the head of the NIH.
The rule was from the CDC. Bob Redfield, who is the head of the CDC, says to me and to anyone who asks him, Tony had nothing to do with 6 feet. It was us. We gave it to him as the parameter.
Yeah, this is a doozy. So, you know the phrase is that you can't win for trying? I know there's one that's you can't win for losing, but I think you can't win for trying. Fauci tried in these hearings to be transparent and to admit, I don't really know where the 6 feet specific figure came from, but that's what we started saying was the recommendation. But people act like that's a slam dunk. Obviously, there's not a magic element to 6 feet exactly. You're at 5 feet 11 inches. Nope. But then 6 feet, boom, all of a sudden you're safe. It's just that understanding how the virus worked, all right, around 6 feet, I guess you're safer than if you were at 1 foot, right? You'd be even safer if you're 10, 20, 30. But then they act like because it's not a black or white thing, similar to masking. Putting on a mask doesn't make it impossible for you to get the virus, but it could make it less likely. They'll act like that means these recommendations didn't matter or weren't legitimate. And that's just nonsense. That means I've been using this phrase a lot, you're telling on yourself. If you are showing your inability to comprehend probability and how you're just less likely to get it if you're this far, and even less likely if you're this far, etc. So Fauci trying to be transparent and saying, hey, on that one, that's not exactly 6 feet was a magic number, and I don't really know where that particular number, I don't know why it wasn't 7, 5.5, 11, I don't know, but that's what people were using. So because he dared to be honest and transparent, he got punished for it from people like Marjorie Green. And now you have people like Dave Rubin and MTG saying Fauci should be jailed. Insane. So insane. Next one.
Right before I left, so I had already decided we were moving to Florida, and it was like 3 days before we were moving, and I was like, I'm going to go out. I haven't been to a restaurant in 2 years because of COVID. And then you had to have a passport. So I had one of my employees fake a vaccine passport for me, and I go to Boa's Steakhouse on Sunset. It was my favorite place in LA. And I go, and it was awful. You couldn't sit at the bar. You know, the waiters are all wearing masks. It was terrible. But I'm sitting there, we're having dinner. And again, I'm already leaving. So this is my like goodbye to LA dinner. And then I realized there were a couple tables of people that recognized me. That happens, obviously. But then I was like, wait a minute. They think I'm a liar because I'm at a restaurant where you need a COVID passport. So these people who like me must think that I actually lied. So I literally went up to 3 tables of people to say, guys, just FYI, this was made by my employee. It's a fake passport.
They were probably like, why are you explaining that to us?
No, they were like, wait, oh, that's
okay.
Well, who are you though? Yeah. But it was like, I was like, what a perfect way to leave this place.
Yeah, right.
I have to go up to people to tell them I'm not a liar because of and that's just like
I am a liar, just not the kind you think.
Exactly.
I lied about this.
I lied about
but
this.
Not the other thing.
Not the other thing, exactly. But like, I was just like, what a perfect way to leave this place. And that's just like a very small example of the stupidity that we allowed this man to proliferate through society.
This man? Is that what he said? People forget all the shutdowns all started when Trump was in office. However you feel about them, that's just the case. Oh, but it was Democrats primarily. Obviously, even in red states, initially everyone was shutting down, implementing these precautions, and then the debate started happening. But people don't have their timeline correct that actually things started to open up when Biden came into office because he took seriously the medical professionals' advice, which is what it took to get this thing under control, to get back to life as usual. But that wasn't from Chris Cuomo, obviously. I forgot the order that we had these in. That was from a podcast with Megyn Kelly that we looked at a different moment from. And think about how crazy that story is from Dave Rubin. If you missed it, he says that he was at a restaurant, at a steakhouse. Very, tough life with Dave Rubin. I just wanted to go to the steakhouse that I go to. And so he went to the steakhouse and saw people looking at him, and he knew it's because they love him. And so then he went up to the tables, 3 different tables, socially very strange, to tell them, oh, I know this restaurant requires a vaccine passport. Don't worry, I'm not a liar by saying that I don't have the vaccine on my podcast, but then actually having it clearly because I'm here. I'm a liar because I got a fake vaccine passport. and that's better somehow. Isn't that illegal? It's definitely illegal. You're falsifying a government document. But then he's bragging about that, proving how crazy other people are. Because he felt the need to go tell people that he presumed were fans of his. That he's not a liar by going to a only vaccinated restaurant when he said he's unvaccinated. He's a liar because he's falsifying documents to pretend like he's vaccinated to go get his steak. Hey Dave, maybe your ability to go to a steakhouse in LA is less important than the millions of people who have died of COVID, lost their life, family members, missing from the table at people's dinners. But they can't get out of their own world. That definitely comes out with Dave Rubin. I think there's another clip. You can go back to the Chris Cuomo.
I'm not protecting him from that. Again, I don't defend Trump on all of the
And you know how
statements.
he has been with racists and alt-right people. He has been very hands-off and very delicate in his treatment of them.
But I would say Joe Biden is far more in bed with racists than Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib.
Oh, you mean...
Okay. Do I have to respond to that one? Really? Biden's the one cozying up to racists? I don't know about that. Dave, I don't know who buys that. I think even people who like Trump agree. Okay, yeah. The largest population of racists, it's not that Trump necessarily, they would say, endorses their views, but obviously it's going to be people who support Trump. But not all people who support Trump. You get what I'm saying. But trying to flip it around there, do a little whataboutism. So with the whole Dave Rubin thing, if y'all don't know this, he started supposedly as being on the left. Then that wasn't really working for him so much. And so then he said, oh, I'm no longer on the left. I'm in the middle. I'm a classical liberal. The left. I didn't leave the left left me, sort of thing. And then that wasn't super great either, I guess, career-wise, I'm assuming. And so then he has kind of gone full MAGA, and now he's in the same category as Marjorie Taylor Greene, calling for Anthony Fauci to be arrested. Someone who, at every turn, was just trying to give the best advice based on the facts we had at that point in time to people. And the very process by which he came to many of the conclusions he did, giving this scientific, evidence-driven advice to our leaders, is the very process, the very method by which millions of lives, like I said, have been saved. And it's horrific to think about, given the heightened rates that Republicans were dying at because of, in many cases, people spewing misinformation to them and them buying it. And it's sort of undeniable given what I talked about. We'll probably in post put up on screen the graph I'm talking about, but how that gap widened right when the vaccine came out. Because again, whether or not you got the vaccine became, as Dave Rubin is espousing, a political decision for a lot of people. And so many people are hurt because of that. And so again, it's not that people can't disagree. There were definitely mistakes made in how lockdowns were done and which things were allowed, which things weren't, and hypocrisy of leaders and all of that. And so much harm came from that. And of course you're balancing harm, the public health emergency, but then the things that come of it. And those were hard decisions in that unprecedented moment. So it's not saying, shut up if you think anything was handled incorrectly. Absolutely not. But it's to say, if you're gonna go as far as to say the stuff Dave Rubin's saying, oh, the vaccine didn't work, then take the time to read up on what the heck you're talking about. And I know this is a matter of him being lazy and not actually understanding what he's talking about, because the last story we did on him was him trying to make this, I'll say, racialized point about black judges and how that Trump can't get a fair shot with his appeal in front of black female judges, because according to Dave Rubin, through DEI, they probably are all going to think the same about Trump. And then on Megyn Kelly's show, again, we covered this, you can see it in a different segment, he didn't even understand the way the New York judicial system worked. So he made this point that was vile, but it wasn't even applicable to the topic he was talking about. He didn't know the order that appeals would even go, or where the trial court is and all that in New York. So I think he's just not doing his research before being rather dishonest and vile. And for that, I condemn him. And credit here, with Chris Cuomo's flaws lately, he did a good job of pushing back. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.